Looking at buying a car and wondering how other people go about it and what their experience is like? I just finished shopping for a new to me vehicle. Tag along, and maybe my approach and experience will be of value to you. Hello, and welcome to the Auto Empowered YouTube channel. Today I'm going to run you through my process and experience with purchasing a vehicle in the hopes that it helps you. If you haven't already, you may want to check out Car Buying 101 and Car Buying in Manitoba, Your Rights. I'll include the links to these videos in the description. We'll break this down into 6 main areas: documenting your needs and wants, high-level research, seeing a few vehicles, narrowing down your search, finding the right vehicle, and getting the deal done. Let's start with documenting your needs and wants. For me, I only have a few needs. The vehicle needs to be an SUV priced under $30,000, have at least 4 seats, be comfortable for me to drive, have room for groceries and packages in the back, and be all-wheel drive or 4x4. My list of wants is a little longer. I want something that has some off-road capabilities, Android Auto, a good sounding stereo, be fuel efficient, comes with winter tires, and has a unique color. These wants are certainly negotiable, and some of them are even in conflict. Typically, a vehicle with stronger off-road capabilities will be less fuel efficient, for example. This is important to keep in mind as you start your search. Now, these are just my wants and needs. Yours may be very different. You may be thinking about new versus used, reliability, warranty, etc. Moving on to your high-level research, which is personally my favorite part of the process. It's the window shopping and daydreaming phase, which can be a lot of fun. There are a lot of ways to go about this. If you have specific vehicles in mind, you can Google them and learn more about them and read reviews written about them. What I like to do is to go to sites where cars are listed for sale and use the filters to put in my needs and have a broad look for all vehicles that meet my musts. With this, I can look to see what vehicles catch my eye, how they fit with my wants, and what other interesting features they might have. This might prompt me to do some vehicle-specific research if I'm not familiar with it. Now, in my case, I was able to narrow my search down to a handful of vehicles. In the fuel efficiency category, hybrid, especially plug-in hybrid vehicles, were interesting to me. For off-road capability, Jeep Wranglers and the Ford Bronco Sport appealed to me. I also found myself interested in Jeep Grand Cherokees and Dodge Durangos for a more spacious ride. What I ended up doing was saving a search for each of these vehicles with the options I'm looking for and in my price range. This way I can keep an eye out to see what's in the market. Something else I like to do is take the vehicles that I've found that I'm interested in and run them by somebody that I know. In my case, I sent some of the vehicles I was interested in to my wife and my teenage daughter and got their feedback on them. And it was interesting because our teenage daughter was quite interested and provided some really good feedback. Next, what I like to do is to go see a few vehicles. At this phase, instead of going with the purchase of picking the perfect vehicle, I'm just trying to get a general sense of which vehicles I like and which ones I can eliminate from my search. If I'm going to dealerships and used car lots, it's possible that something else might catch my eye that didn't on my search, and I can check them out too. Because I had a good working Ford Escape, I wasn't in any hurry to buy a vehicle, so I went and saw a lot of vehicles. Over about a month, I think I looked through about 40 vehicles and probably drove about 20 of them. They included the Grand Cherokee, Durango, Wrangler, Rogue, Kicks, Outlander, Forester, Outback, CX-30 and 50, the Santa Fe, both gas and hybrid, and even a couple of trucks. I even checked out a newer Ford Escape Hybrid. On top of all of those, I had a brief look at a whole pile of other vehicles that were potentially interesting, but was able to disqualify those quickly. I'll say, in this example, there was no single vehicle or brand that jumped out to me and made me really want it. Because I had the luxury of taking my time and I wasn't in a rush to get a vehicle, that wasn't a problem, and I didn't feel pressured to make a rush purchase. I found myself greatly conflicted between something on the fun, enjoyable side and something fuel efficient like a plug-in hybrid. After all this, it was time to narrow down my search. I eliminated the majority of vehicles from my search, and I was down to the Grand Cherokee, Durango, Santa Fe Hybrid, and Escape Hybrid. I tightened up my online searches and spent about a week seeing what options came up and browsing listings more. I found that none of these four really spoke to me, and I kept going back to the Jeep Wrangler. The trouble was that being a big guy, I found the Wrangler to be cramped and not terribly comfortable, and being comfortable to drive was one of my musts. Doing a bit of research, I found that Jeep introduced the JL Wrangler, a new generation in 2018, and that the interior and seating was quite different than previous generations. Because I had only looked at Wranglers older than that, I decided to go see a 2018 model. As I did with a lot of my shopping, I picked one dealer that had a few vehicles I wanted to look at, including a 2018 Wrangler. I found that the Wrangler was much more comfortable and a better fit for me than the previous generation. My wife Shelley and I both drove it and really liked the way it drove, the way it looked, the comfort, and really everything about it. It hit all my needs and almost all of my wants. The only thing was the lack of fuel efficiency, but I knew whichever way I went, there would be trade-offs. It was even a bit of a unique color. Rather than having a black hardtop which comes standard, it had a bright silver body-colored hardtop that made it look really sharp. Shelley and I talked for a bit and decided that it was the right vehicle and we wanted to try to buy it. This is another part of the process, the actual buying process. This can be very intimidating, but it doesn't necessarily need to be. The best thing you can do ahead of time is know what extras you might want or need, what you're willing to pay for the vehicle, and be prepared to walk away. I'd done some research ahead of time and knew that even their asking price was a very reasonable price compared to other Wranglers in Manitoba. But again, as I was in no rush, I was ready to walk away unless we got a good deal. If you're interested in warranty options or add-ons, this is a good time to talk those through with your salesperson. It really helps negotiations to always be looking at an all-in price. That is the price for the vehicle, as well as any warranty or accessory costs. Keep in mind for your budget that this price is still before relevant taxes in your area. In Manitoba, with GST and PST, there are 12% taxes on top of the purchase price when buying from a dealer. In our case, because I work on our vehicles, we had no additional needs other than the vehicle, so I knew we were going to focus on price. I stated clearly that we weren't interested in add-ons or warranty and asked about any admin fees to get an all-in price. In our case, this price was about $34,000. While their asking price was reasonable, I found a few other Wranglers with slightly different kilometers or different options, ranging from about 31 to 35K. We decided that our max price we were willing to pay was 30K or we were willing to walk. This is an important step in bargaining that will give you some leverage in negotiating. To get the deal done, the way it works at most car dealers, especially larger ones, is that they will ask you to make an offer and then they will go get it approved with their finance manager who will come back with a counter offer. This step continues back and forth until you agree on a price or decide to walk away from the negotiation. When making your offer, don't start at your maximum price, but it's also not a great idea to be unreasonably low. I decided to start the negotiation at $26,000, which they quickly rejected and countered at $32,000, and shared that this was a great price in the market for the vehicle. They weren't wrong, it was a pretty good price, but I still wanted to get a better deal. I countered at $27,000 and listed a few minor blemishes and things that I didn't like with the vehicle. They came back at $31,000 and said that it was the best they could do. I then said that I think we're too far away to be able to make a deal and that I'm going to go elsewhere. They really didn't like this. They want to do all they can to close the deal right there and then. They know statistically that if you walk away from the table, that their odds of closing the sale are very slim. They asked me to make one more final offer, and I offered $29,000, but I made it clear that I wouldn't go any higher. They countered at $30,000. I knew this was my goal, but I decided to push a little harder and said if they can do $29,500, that I'll sign right now, and they agreed. Depending on the dealer you're working with and their rules and strategies, this may or may not work, but it's always worth a try. In this case, we saved $4,500 over their asking price, but you will find that your results may vary. So at the end of all of this, we have a new to us 2018 Jeep Wrangler that I think we'll be very happy with for years to come. And I walked away feeling like I got a great deal too. I hope this helps you next time you are car shopping. If this video was helpful for you, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing.